Active Directory still runs many environments, but users, apps, and threats no longer stay inside the network. In this topic, we'll look at why organizations modernize identity with Entra ID and what drives a successful migration. So far, we've built the foundation, how Active Directory is structured, and how authentication, authorization, DNS, and group policy support daily operations. Now we use that knowledge to ask a modernization question. If AD works, why move toward Entra ID? Then we'll look at how to assess the current environment before planning a migration. Moving from Active Directory toward Entra ID is really a shift in where access decisions happen. Traditional AD assumed a managed device on a trusted internal network, often running Windows. That model made sense when most apps and data lived on premises. Today, users connect from anywhere, on mobile and personal devices to SaaS apps, cloud workloads, and shared data. Identity becomes the control plane. Entra ID is built for that world with modern authentication, conditional access, and governance that follows the user, device, app, and risk signal. Domain controllers are not just another server role. They support sign-in, application access, file shares, group policy, DNS, and oftentimes synchronization. When that infrastructure ages, the risk is both operational and security-related. Administrators must keep patching current, monitor replication health, validate backups, test recovery, and protect privileged access. Unsupported Windows Server versions add even more exposure and compatibility pressure. Moving cloud application authentication to Entra ID helps reduce that dependency, so fewer critical access paths rely on aging physical or virtual domain controllers. Traditional Active Directory depends on the device, being able to reach the corporate network. Once employees work from home, that assumption becomes a pain point. A VPN may be needed just to change a password, receive group policy updates, open file shares, or reach internal apps. That creates friction for users, extra tickets for IT, and another critical failure point. Entra ID shifts the control plane to identity. Access can be granted based on the user, device compliance, risk, and policy, without requiring domain controller connectivity. In branch offices, AD can turn each location into a small data center. To keep logons fast and applications available, teams may place domain controllers, DNS, file servers, and network appliances locally. That solves one problem, but creates several others. Every site needs patching, monitoring, backups, hardware refreshes, and physical protection. And the WAN still matters. If connectivity is slow or unstable, users may see delayed logons, group policy failures, or poor access to centralized resources. With cloud identity services like Entra ID, users authenticate closer to the service, and fewer locations need dedicated identity infrastructure. Active Directory may look stable, but stability does not mean low cost. Behind it are servers, licenses, patching, monitoring, backups, disaster recovery, and skilled administrators keeping the platform healthy. Legacy applications and domain-joined devices add another layer, because they can force older patterns to stay in place and slow cloud adoption. The business risk is clear. If identity is down, many services are down. Modernizing with Entra ID is not only about reducing cost. It redirects effort toward policy, automation, resilience, security, and governance. Passwords remain one of the easiest paths into Active Directory. Attackers do not need a 0-day if they can spray common passwords, brute force weak ones, phish users, reuse leaked credentials, or crack hashes offline. Once an account is compromised, it may unlock workstations, servers, apps, and even admin tools. Password policy alone is no longer enough. Stronger identity controls are needed. MFA, passwordless sign-in, risk-based evaluation, and Entra ID identity protection. The goal is simple: make stolen credentials far less useful. Legacy authentication is risky not just because it is old, but because many older methods were designed before MFA, device compliance, and conditional access became standard. Basic authentication, POP, IMAP, NTLM, and simple LDAP binds can allow an application or an attacker to present only a password and avoid stronger checks. Common sources include old mail clients, scripts, service accounts, and inherited app integrations. The modernization path is to find these dependencies, reduce or block them, and move apps toward OAuth, OpenID Connect, SAML, certificates, or token-based authentication. Lateral movement is how an attacker moves from an initial foothold to higher-value systems. In an AD-connected environment, one compromised workstation can expose cached credentials, local admin rights, or reusable tokens. Those clues may lead to a server, then to broader permissions, and eventually to domain controllers, sensitive data, or privileged accounts. The danger grows when networks are flat, admin rights are too broad, and devices are unmanaged. Entra ID helps reduce that implicit trust by enforcing stronger identity checks, conditional access, and more precise control over who can reach what. Privileged access is where many AD security problems become high impact. Domain admins, enterprise admins, server admins, and service accounts can often reach far beyond one system. The biggest concern is standing privilege. Accounts remain powerful even when no one is actively administering anything. Dormant admin accounts, shared credentials, missing MFA, and unmanaged service accounts all create easy paths for attackers. Entra ID helps shift the model toward control and accountability, using RBAC's privileged identity management, access reviews, and just-in-time elevation, so privilege is granted only when needed and only for the right scope. Traditional AD relied on the office network, domain trust, and group membership as strong access signals. That model breaks down when users connect from home, mobile devices, and cloud apps. Modern access needs context. Entra ID conditional access can evaluate who the user is, whether the device is compliant, where the sign-in comes from, how risky it appears, and which app is being accessed. The outcome is not just allow or deny. Access can require MFA, demand a compliant device, limit a session, or block the request. As organizations adopt Microsoft 365, SaaS, and cloud platforms, the security boundary changes. Access is no longer controlled mainly by where someone connects from. It is controlled by who they are, what device they use, which app they need, and what policy applies. Entra ID becomes the common control plane for those decisions. It supports single sign-on, federation, conditional access, group-based permissions, and lifecycle management. So the same identity model can protect employees, partners, applications, administrators, and automation across the cloud. A strong migration rationale connects pressure points to concrete decisions. Operational issues such as aging domain controllers, VPN dependence, branch complexity, and support overhead show where the current model is becoming expensive to run. Security issues such as password attacks, legacy authentication, excessive privileges, and weak adaptive controls show where risk is accumulating. Business drivers, including Microsoft 365, SaaS growth, remote work, compliance, and cloud workloads, show where identity needs to enable change. When these drivers are compared by business impact and technical urgency, priorities become clearer. From there, you can sequence work around value, risk reduction, and stakeholder alignment. The main point is not that AD disappears overnight. It is that older assumptions no longer fit modern access patterns, cloud apps, and current security threats. Migration to Entra ID is driven by operational pressure, stronger identity protection, and SaaS adoption. Next, we move from reasons to evidence, assessing AD, apps, devices, dependencies, and risks before planning the path forward.